Good morning. How are you folks doing out there? This is Glenn Greenidge and Tom Pope, and we are social activists, and we're having a conversation today around the impact of community centers on youth participation, youth reduction in crime, and youth re-entering or entering um, the community in a very positive way. Uh, Tom, what are your thoughts?
Well, recently I saw the movie again, Pride, with Terrence Howard. Um, Part-time job to close a rec center in a community. And rather than close it, he decides, since he has a background as a swimming instructor, he's going to use the swimming pool in the rec center to motivate a lot of the young people. Draws in the people, and what do we see developing? Well, he brings together a sense of community. Um, One particular character in the story actually was about to get into crime, um, being terrorized by a local drug lord. Um, the character Terrence Howard played, Jim Ellis, was actually a true to life character who kept this rec center alive and developed a swimming club and fought for the students and young people so that they could avoid going in the direction of that drug lord or crime. So it's an interesting idea that we can use the rec center as a means of community development.
Absolutely. I think that it's one of the mainstay of getting youth involved in things that are positive, that are not left out to uh, the streets to educate and to encourage them in a direction that may not be positive towards society. I think that an important part of it is the socialization, camaraderie, building, especially even when you look at teams, you look at, in this case, in Pride, it was a swim team, but it could be a basketball team, it could be a football team. There have been various um, movies about bringing young people together and having them create a bond for themselves and begin to take responsibility for their lives. So, anytime a youth begins to take responsibility and look at the consequences, I think that that's the piece that is the strongest learning factor. Is when you begin to be accountable and look at the consequences. If I do this, this is more than likely to happen. Am I willing to allow that to happen? No, I'm not. So then don't do that thing that would have that occur.
This type of sense actually can be developed via the sports. It's fascinating. In the movie Pride, we see a group of individuals who don't quite have that sense until they start to operate as a team and think about um, I have to listen to the instructor because he can show me a better way of developing my skills. Um, so this brings together a new dynamic for the community. If we have a lot of alienation going on in the minds of these individuals because they can't identify with, let's say, family, family has problems, maybe there are gangs in the area, they feel alone, they feel they can't fit in. Well, here's a place where they can fit in.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think that even when you look at the youth gang cultures and what have you, a lot of what they provide is a family oriented connection. And so they're offering that. And if you don't have the rec centers that are offering something equally, um, then what choices they have? So they only have a choice of going into a gang or what have you. You know, the camaraderie, the teamwork, the communication, all of that is so important as you're growing up. And sometimes you need to be outside of the family structure, not to say that the family structure um, can't provide that, because in some cases it can, but there are cases of when you look back and track the juvenile delinquents, a lot of times they don't have that family structure available to them. So if you take away the community centers, you now are one less opportunity for them to participate. You know, I was talking with this judge who was a family court judge. I don't know if he still runs the administration of child services for the city of New York. And it was at a time when Mayor Bloomberg had shut down the juvenile delinquent centers that were outside of the city. And quite frankly, you know, I understood where he was coming from because we were spending over $100,000 a year for to incarcerate that youth in those facilities. The thing that I wasn't happy about was that they weren't providing any services when you bring them back to the community in which the environment which they got in trouble, you didn't upgrade it. And the judge, um, the former judge who was running ACS said to me, he says, you know, sometimes when I look at the kids and I see the parents, I understand why the kids got in trouble because they're not being provided those kinds of structures. Go ahead, Tommy. I think you had something to say about that.
Well, no, that's okay. It just reminded me of the situation with the mental institutions in the 50s and 60s that were shut without any planning of, well, what do we do to treat the patients as they come back into the community?
Yeah, yeah,
It's a similar problem. It's the lack of a comprehensive plan.
right. You're absolutely right. And the thing again, when you look at some of these young people's situation, they may be in an abusive household, a substance abuse, just economically deprived, and you know, going to school hungry. I mean, that's why the school lunch programs and breakfast programs have been so important, so that they actually are not, have the nourishment that they need, that they actually could learn. And of course, community centers provide music, they provide a culture, they provide socialization. And and the more I think of it, I hear about these stories. There's a young woman that is now a young black girl. I think she's about 14, that is just about to become a chess master, the first African American chess master, and her community center is based around chess. That's what they do. We had the gentleman up in Harlem who was doing fencing, and one of his students got a gold medal, gold or silver medal in 2 or 3 Olympics ago in fencing. There was another guy that was doing archery. So so when we take away these kinds of activities that are character building activities, and they can see their growth and potential inside of those arenas, you now have a pride and a sense of, well, I can do things with my life, and I've got opportunities, and I can create opportunities for myself.
Before we have the audience thinking we're only talking about an aspect of sports, it's interesting. A colleague, David Yale, happens to have a series of books dealing with the rec center as part of the community. And the first book is on Amazon. It's Becoming Gigi or Jill. The second book is still being written, but in both stories, we have a rec center in Minneapolis where the young people are drawn into many activities. They come into the center as a novice, maybe not knowing what they want to do with their lives or which direction they want to go in school. One girl decides there's no way she can do things she loves with cars. She ends up being a mechanic and helping a couple of people set up a garage to repair cars. Another person gets involved with flowers and develops an incredible garden. A boxing club, well, that's sports, but we get into other areas where they discover that some minority people don't have access to food. So let's get together and let's cook up a dish and bring some food over to some people. So we get into many of them becoming amateur chefs.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of this can be developed in that community center.
Absolutely. In fact, you just reminded me there's an aquaponics garden in Brooklyn that was developed locally, and they have the youth come in and work it, and take care of the vegetables. Actually, harvest the vegetables and provide it to the community. So you've got homegrown um, um, vegetables that are available inside of, and you're also training them in a particular technology that really is probably the future of the food business when you think about it. Um, Instead of these vast farmlands, you've got spaces where you've got the fish who are pooping in the water, who are providing the nutrients for the plants, and you've got a cycle: sell the fish, sell the produce, and you're all inside a ecosystem that you created. So I mean, there's so many fantastic things that are available um, when you can get young people together and begin to discover what are their talents, what are their likes, what are their interests. And as you said earlier, sometimes they come there not knowing what their interests and get to discover them and get to find a career path that might not have been bestowed to them and might not have even gleamed it possible.
It's interesting, the worlds of fiction actually can provide a model for reality. Um, David's two books with the Rec Center actually shows how leadership can evolve. The protagonists in both books, um, first book is a young woman, second book is a young man. Um, they enter with the idea of, well, let me see what's happening here. And they end up thinking, well, maybe I can set up a committee to do something to help. They evolve to the point where they're leading as the director. They've been allowed to become the director by the Parks Department in this area. And by being the director, they are setting up agendas for meetings, trying to include people who are coming to the center. How do we make time for each group of people? We're setting up priorities. All of this allows the buildup of a sense of a skill that can then be channeled as a leader for the community.
It's it's devastating to me to think that the community centers are one of the first places that get cut, the PSL programs, the local community centers, the YMCA. All of those are so vital to the development of leaders, of building of character, and keeping young people off the street. I mean, um, I can't tell you how many young people that I see that are looking for something productive to do and don't have that opportunity. And and the first things that gets cut are the music programs, are the art programs, the drama programs, the programs that allow you to express your creative talents.
So if we spend X amount of dollars in these areas, it's very possible we could be saving 2 times X in dealing with crime, health conditions in the future. So it's a short-sighted idea that we have to save money by cutting rec centers, arts, areas that help the mind develop.
Yeah, yes, you're absolutely right. It's critical and crucial that those programs, and they're talking about um, defunding the police, but I don't think it's really about defunding the police. I think it's really about providing these nurturing types of programs so that the police have less to do. The police can work with them. And I think that that's the real opportunity for communities, especially communities of color, to embrace the police force inside of these programs. Because let's face it, every time that I've seen the police participating, they're getting as much out of it as the kids are. So, I mean, it really is an opportunity to build relationships and to cross cultivate different communities so that they begin to understand each other and can relate to each other and can communicate. And that's, I think that's the thing for me that I see as a possibility.
Now, actually, it's interesting that a research done by an organization called the NRPA, let me see, this is an organization dealing with community recreation centers. It shows that a reduction of crime rates with children actually does occur if the community has rec centers. And for people who worry about their home value, actually, part of the research indicates that rec centers increase property value.
Excellent. Yeah, it makes sense. Because if you've got a reduction in crime, you've got young people who are healthy citizens that are looking to do things for the community. That community rises. The appreciation, the cleanliness, all of those things get impacted in a positive direction. So I hope that we continue to look at these social programs that are long-term investments, because that's really what they are, the long-term investments that we've got to continue to make our society better.
Well, on that note, I would like to encourage everyone to let us know what you think. Contact us at Community and Social Change Facebook, and let us know your thoughts.
Great. Thank you, Tom. And this is Glenn Greenidge. We're signing out.
Thank you.